Have you ever had a dream so big it scared you? A dream you kept locked away because you were afraid of what others might think, or worse, afraid you might fail? If so, then you need to hear the story of a boy named Ethan and an old, empty chair. Ethan was a quiet kid, the kind you'd find in the back of the classroom, head buried in a book, his mind buzzing with incredible ideas. He dreamed of one day standing on a stage, sharing those ideas, and inspiring people with his words. But there was a problem, a huge one. The moment all eyes were on him, his throat would close up, his palms would sweat, and the brilliant thoughts in his head would vanish into thin air. Public speaking was his greatest fear, and it stood like a giant wall between him and his dream. One evening after another, disastrous attempt at a class presentation. Ethan sat at the dinner table, pushing his food around his plate. His dad noticed the heavy silence. "What's on your mind, champ?" he asked gently. Ethan finally confessed his frustration, his voice barely a whisper. "I have so much to say, Dad, but I just can't. I freeze." His dad listened patiently, then got up and walked into the living room. He came back carrying an old wooden dining chair and placed it in the middle of the room. "See this chair," he said. "Starting tonight, this is your audience. It won't judge you. It won't laugh. It will just listen. I want you to talk to it every single night. Tell it about your day, your dreams, the stories in your head. Just talk." Ethan thought it was a silly idea, but he was desperate. So that night, he stood in front of the empty chair, his heart pounding. He started hesitantly, his voice shaky. "Hello, chair." It felt ridiculous, but he kept going. He talked about his favorite book, a funny thing that happened at school, his secret ambition to be a speaker. Night after night, he practiced. The chair became his confidant. He learned to organize his thoughts, to control the pace of his voice, to add emotion to his words. Slowly, almost without him noticing, the fear began to melt away. He was finding his voice. A few months later, the school announced its annual public speaking contest. The old Ethan would have hidden at the very thought of it. But this new Ethan, the one who had spent countless hours speaking to an empty chair, felt a tiny spark of courage. His dad saw the flyer on the fridge and simply smiled. "You've been training for this," he said. "Your first real audience is waiting." With a mix of terror and excitement, Ethan signed up. The night of the contest, the auditorium was packed. Backstage, his stomach was doing flips. He could hear the confident voices of the other speakers, and his old anxieties came rushing back. He felt the urge to run, to disappear. But then he closed his eyes and pictured the old wooden chair in his living room. He imagined its quiet, non-judgmental presence. He took a deep breath. It was just a bigger room with more chairs. When his name was called, Ethan walked onto the stage. The bright lights were blinding, and a sea of faces stared back at him. For a second, he froze. His mind went blank. The silence felt deafening. But then, he spotted an empty chair in the front row, left vacant by a latecomer. He focused on it. He took a breath and began to speak, not to the crowd, but to that single, empty chair. He spoke about the power of having a dream, even when you're scared. He told them about his own struggles, his own fears. His voice, once timid, was now filled with passion and honesty. He wasn't just reciting a speech. He was sharing a piece of his soul. The audience was captivated. They weren't just listening to words. They were feeling his journey. When he finished, there was a moment of stunned silence, followed by a thunderous applause that shook the entire auditorium. Ethan didn't win first place that night. A more polished, experienced speaker took home the trophy. But as he walked off that stage, with his heart still racing, he knew he had won something far more valuable. He had conquered his fear. He had found his voice. He had won self-belief. Years went by. Ethan went to college, and his passion for speaking grew. He joined debate clubs, led group projects, and never missed an opportunity to share his ideas. He never forgot the lesson of the empty chair. Today, Ethan is one of the most sought-after motivational speakers in the country. He stands on huge stages in front of thousands of people, his voice resonating with power and authenticity. But if you look closely, you'll notice something peculiar. Right there on stage, next to the sleek, modern lectern, is an old, simple wooden chair. It's the same chair from his living room all those years ago. At the end of every single speech, he walks over to it, places a hand on its back, and says, "This chair taught me the most important lesson of my life. Before you can win over a crowd, before you can get anyone else to believe in you, you must first learn to believe in yourself. Find your empty chair, speak your truth, even when no one is listening, because the most important audience you will ever have is you." So, what's your empty chair? What's that first small step you can take today to face your fear and speak your dream into existence? The world is waiting to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more motivational content. We'll see you in the next one.